Zathar's heart raced as alarms blared throughout the cramped cockpit of his starship. The controls flickered and sputtered, displaying erratic readouts that mirrored the chaos inside him. Just moments ago, his home planet, once a vibrant cradle of APEX civilization, was reduced to a smoldering ruin, fire and ash painting the sky in hues of despair. He could still hear the echoes of his family's final cries, the sound of the planet's shattering demise reverberating in his mind. The APEX, a race known for their advanced technology and profound understanding of the cosmos, had been brought to their knees by a cataclysmic event, a rogue asteroid storm, a direct hit on their capital. Zathar, a mere apprentice engineer, had been lucky to escape, but the weight of survivors' guilt pressed heavily on his shoulders as he piloted the failing craft into the void. As the ship veered off course, alarms blared louder, drowning out his thoughts. He struggled to stabilize the vessel, hands trembling on the controls. Come on," he murmured, desperation lacing his voice. But the ship was beyond saving. An emergency landing was his only option, and he had no idea where he would end up. The stars outside blurred into streaks of light as he descended through the atmosphere of an unknown planet. A sudden jolt rocked the ship, metal creaking under the strain. Zathar braced himself against the console, heart pounding, as the ground rushed up to meet him. His last thought before impact was of his home, of the APEX and all that was lost. The crash was violent. The ship shattered against the planet's surface, sending debris flying in all directions. Zathar was thrown forward, his vision blurring as darkness threatened to claim him. When he finally regained consciousness, smoke filled the cockpit, and a dull ache radiated from his body. He groaned, pushing himself up, his reptilian eyes adjusting to the dim light. The wreckage was a chaotic jumble of twisted metal and shattered glass. Panic surged through him. Had he landed on a hostile world? He glanced out the cracked viewport, seeing greenery and strange, towering structures looming in the distance. Was this a human colony? Would they see him as a monster? Gritting his teeth against the pain, Zathar forced himself to exit the ship. As he stumbled out into the open air, he was met with an array of curious eyes. A group of humans had gathered at a safe distance, weapons in hand but expressions shifting from fear to intrigue. They were talking among themselves, pointing at him, their whispers carrying a mixture of awe and suspicion. Zathar's heart raced. He had faced many dangers in his life, but nothing compared to the prospect of being hunted as prey. He stood tall, despite the fear gnawing at him. With his elongated limbs and vibrant scales, he knew he appeared intimidating. But his eyes, wide and filled with a blend of fear and determination, spoke a different story. "Please," he croaked, struggling to form words in their language. "I mean no harm." His voice was gravelly, and the humans flinched, unsure of what to make of this alien creature standing before them. Before he could say more, one of them stepped forward, an earnest-looking woman with a determined expression. "Wait, let's not act rashly." She held her hands up, palms facing him, a gesture of peace. "We need to help him." Zathar felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Perhaps here, among these strangers, he could find refuge. Perhaps he could learn to live again, even as the cosmos felt so cold and empty. The woman stepped closer, her hands still raised in a gesture of peace. Zathar's heart raced. He could see the determination in her eyes, mixed with a hint of trepidation. He lowered his own hand slightly, trying to convey that he posed no threat. The whispers among the humans quieted, all eyes fixed on him, the air thick with tension. "Who are you?" the woman asked, her voice steady yet gentle. "What happened?" Zathar took a deep breath, the air filling his lungs with the scent of earth and plants, so foreign yet oddly comforting. He struggled to find the right words, his thoughts swirling. "Zathar. Apex," he managed, his voice a gravelly whisper. "My home, destroyed." The memories flooded back, fiery skies, the sounds of chaos, and the faces of those he loved, now forever lost. A murmur of understanding rippled through the crowd. The woman, who had introduced herself as Mira, stepped even closer, her eyes softening. "You're safe here. We'll help you," she promised, her sincerity evident. "But we need to get you away from the wreckage." Just then, a loud voice broke through the murmurs. "Wait, we don't know what this creature is capable of." A man stepped forward, his brow furrowed with suspicion. "How can we trust it?" Zathar felt a surge of panic. He was an outsider, an alien in a world that could easily turn hostile. The glint of weapons in the hands of the humans reminded him of his precarious situation. He instinctively stepped back, his instincts urging him to flee. But Mira's voice cut through the noise, firm and unwavering. "Jarek, we can't just abandon him. He's vulnerable, just like us. If we turn him away, what does that say about our humanity?" Her words hung in the air, challenging the hostility brewing among the colonists. Zathar's heart swelled with a mixture of gratitude and fear. Mira was risking her own safety for him. Taking a deep breath, he tried to steady himself. "I want to help," he said, the words coming out haltingly. "I can fix ship." A ripple of surprise ran through the crowd. Jarek's expression shifted, skepticism still etched on his face. "And what if he's deceiving us? What if he's a scout for an invading force?" His voice dripped with disdain, inciting murmurs of agreement from some onlookers. "I'm not here to fight," Zathar insisted, desperation creeping into his tone. "I lost everything. I just want to survive." He could feel his pulse quickening, the fear of rejection clawing at him. Mira turned to Jarek, her determination unwavering. "If he can fix his ship, he might be able to help us too. We've seen nothing like him, and that means he can bring knowledge we don't have. We can learn from each other." After a tense moment, Jarek's shoulders relaxed slightly, though doubt still lingered in his eyes. "Fine, but if he steps out of line, then we'll deal with it," Mira interrupted, her voice a blend of authority and compassion. "Let's at least give him a chance." Zathar felt a flicker of hope rekindle. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. It felt surreal to be receiving kindness instead of fear. As Mira led him away from the wreckage, he took a moment to glance back at the remnants of his ship, a piece of his past now engulfed in smoke and debris. "Come on, let's get you to the infirmary," Mira said, her tone brightening. "You need medical attention, and I'll help you with repairs." As they walked, Zathar observed the colony, a patchwork of buildings and fields brimming with life. A vibrant community. It was unlike anything he had known. Each step felt like a fragile bridge toward acceptance, but as doubt lingered in the air, he knew that trust would take time. And perhaps time was something he had finally found. As Zathar followed Mira through the colony, his senses were overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of human life. Children laughed as they chased one another, their carefree joy a stark contrast to the despair he felt inside. The air was fragrant with blooming flowers, a sharp reminder of the beauty he'd lost on his home planet. Each step took him further from his past and closer to a tentative future. Mira led him to a modest building adorned with vibrant murals depicting the colony's history. "This is the infirmary," she explained, opening the door to reveal a well-organized space filled with medical equipment and herbs from their gardens. "You'll be safe here." Zathar hesitated at the entrance, uncertainty creeping in. His reptilian features, with shimmering scales and sharp claws, were a stark reminder of how different he was. Would the humans ever truly accept him? But Mira stepped aside, gesturing for him to enter. "Come on, let's take care of those wounds." He stepped inside, the soft glow of lights casting a warm ambience. Mira quickly gathered supplies, her movements efficient and calming. As she worked on his injuries, Zathar found himself watching her with growing admiration. She was unafraid, her hands steady as she cleaned the cuts on his arms. "You're stronger than you look," she remarked, glancing up at him with a smile. "I've seen humans who would have fainted by now." Zathar chuckled softly, the sound surprising even himself. "I have endured much," he replied, his voice still hoarse. "But it is different here. I am not alone." Mira's expression softened. "Good. That's what we want for you, to feel at home." As she finished bandaging his wounds, she turned serious. "But you need to tell me more about your people. What happened back there?" Zathar's gaze dropped, the weight of memories flooding back. "We were proud. Apex were advanced, exploring stars. But we were not prepared for the storm. Our defenses failed." His voice trembled as he continued. "I was just an engineer, trying to save my family. I could not." Mira listened intently, her eyes reflecting compassion. "You did what you could. Survival isn't just about strength. It's also about resilience. You made it here, and that's something." Their connection deepened as Zathar shared stories of his world, how the APX revered nature and technology alike, weaving them into a harmonious existence. Mira responded with tales of humanity's own struggles and triumphs, revealing a shared history of hardship and hope. They laughed over their differences, Zathar's elongated limbs and scales against Mira's soft skin and human form. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. After a while, Mira looked at him thoughtfully. "If you're going to stay here, we need to help you fit in. We have a lot to learn from each other." She handed him a small tablet, its screen glowing with information. "This is our colony's data hub. It'll help you understand our customs, our language." Zathar accepted it, feeling the weight of its potential. "Thank you. I will learn," he vowed, determination flooding his veins. As he thumbed through the tablet's contents, he marveled at the differences in human culture, their art, their music, their stories. Each entry ignited a flicker of curiosity within him. Suddenly, the door swung open and a group of children burst into the infirmary, eyes wide with wonder. "Is he a real alien?" one exclaimed, pointing at Zathar. They crowded around, their excitement palpable. Zathar froze, instinctively wanting to retreat, but Mira knelt beside him, encouragingly. "Yes, he is. This is Zathar, and he's here to help us," she said, her voice bright with enthusiasm. The children's faces lit up, and one brave little girl stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Can you tell us about your home?" she asked, her innocence a stark contrast to the chaos of his past. Zathar looked at her, surprised by the question. He realized in that moment that perhaps sharing his story could build bridges, not just with the adults, but with the next generation. A smile crept onto his face as he nodded, the spark of hope growing brighter. "Yes," he said, "I will tell you." Zathar's heart swelled as the children gathered around him, their faces filled with anticipation. He could feel their innocence washing over him like a balm, easing the weight of his memories. He took a moment to collect his thoughts, searching for a way to share the beauty of his world without the shadow of its destruction. "On my home planet, we live in harmony with nature," he began, his voice steadying as he spoke. "The APX revered the stars, studying them, crafting ships that could travel light years. We cultivated vast gardens, where plants grew tall and vibrant. Our technology was a gift, not a burden." The children listened intently, their wide eyes reflecting wonder. Zathar found himself animated by their curiosity, recalling the lush landscapes of his home, a world alive with color and sound. There were rivers that sparkled under twin suns and mountains that reached toward the heavens. We celebrated life with festivals, singing and dancing under the stars. "Did you have games?" a boy asked, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Zathar chuckled, remembering the playful competitions that had once filled his days. "Yes, we did. We raced through the forests, climbing trees, and leaping from branch to branch. We played with luminescent orbs that floated in the air, illuminating the night." He mimicked the motion, his hand swirling through the air, igniting a burst of laughter from the children. But now, his voice faltered, the weight of reality crashing back. "Now it is gone." The laughter faded, replaced by a heavy silence. He looked around at the children, their innocent faces shadowed by understanding. "I am alone," he finished softly. Mira, kneeling beside him, placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone anymore, Zathar. We're here with you." Her words resonated within him, igniting a flicker of hope. One of the children, a girl with braided hair and freckles, piped up, "You can stay with us. You can help us grow things. We have a garden, and we can learn together." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Zathar felt a smile tug at the corners of his mouth. "Gardening?" Zathar asked, intrigued. "Tell me more." Mira grinned, sensing the shift in Zathar's demeanor. "Our gardens are vital to our survival. We grow food, medicinal herbs, and flowers that attract beneficial insects. It's a community effort. Everyone contributes." Zathar's interest peaked. "I could share my knowledge of bioluminescent plants and advanced irrigation systems," he offered, excitement bubbling within him. "We could create a sanctuary, a blend of our worlds." The children erupted in cheers, clapping and dancing around him. "A garden! A garden!" they chanted, their laughter filling the infirmary with a lightness that momentarily lifted the shadows of Zathar's past. Mira stood, her eyes sparkling with pride. "That's a wonderful idea, Zathar. Let's get started right away." She turned to the children. "Gather your tools and seeds. We'll make a new garden together." As the children raced out of the infirmary, Zathar felt a surge of warmth. He watched them go, a newfound purpose awakening within him. Perhaps here, in this strange yet vibrant colony, he could rebuild not just a garden, but a sense of belonging. The sun hung low in the sky as they stepped outside, the warmth washing over him like a gentle embrace. Zathar marveled at the landscape. Fields of wildflowers swaying in the breeze, towering trees offering shelter, and the distant mountains bathed in golden light. It was a different kind of beauty, but it ignited something deep within him, a spark of hope. Mira walked beside him, her presence grounding. "You know, Zathar, I think you'll fit in here just fine," she said, a playful smile on her lips. "This colony could use your creativity and spirit." "Together, we will thrive," Zathar replied, his voice strong and steady. He felt the shadows of his past begin to lift as he envisioned a new beginning. Here, among these humans, he might find not just solace, but also a family, one bound not by blood, but by shared dreams and aspirations. The cosmos felt less empty, and for the first time since his world crumbled, Zathar dared to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. The excitement of the new garden project rippled through the colony like a fresh breeze, invigorating the community. Under Zathar's guidance, the children gathered seeds from their existing crops, while Mira organized tools and equipment for their ambitious plans. Each day brought laughter and collaboration as they began to cultivate the land, a space where the essence of both human and APEX culture could flourish. But as Zathar settled into his role, a darker undercurrent began to emerge. Jarek, the skeptical man who had initially questioned Zathar's presence, grew increasingly vocal. Despite the progress they made, he believed that harboring an alien was a risk too great to bear. He rallied a faction of colonists, sowing seeds of doubt and fear among those who had initially welcomed Zathar. One evening, as Zathar and Mira reviewed their plans for the garden, a commotion erupted outside. Shouts filled the air, and Zathar instinctively tensed, feeling the familiar stirrings of anxiety. Mira rushed to the door, her expression shifting from excitement to concern. "We need to see what's happening," she exclaimed, and Zathar followed her outside, the atmosphere thick with tension. As they stepped into the gathering crowd, Zathar felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Jarek stood at the forefront, his arms crossed, a scowl etched on his face. "Look at this. He's already manipulating our children, turning them against us," he shouted, gesturing wildly toward Zathar. "What do you mean?" Mira replied, her voice steady, but the underlying fear in her eyes betrayed her calm facade. "Zathar is helping us. Helping, or trying to take over." Jarek's voice dripped with disdain. What do we really know about him? What if he's here to spy, to bring more of his kind to conquer us? His followers murmured in agreement, their expressions a mix of fear and suspicion. Zathar's heart sank. He had come to this place hoping for acceptance, and now he stood on the precipice of being cast out. "I mean no harm," he said, stepping forward. "I want to learn and help. My people are gone. I seek no conquest." Jarek stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "Then why should we trust you? You're an alien, and we have no reason to believe you're not dangerous." "Because I am here, choosing to be vulnerable in front of you," Zathar countered, his voice strong despite the tremor in his heart. "I lost everything. I am not a threat. I am a survivor." The crowd wavered, caught between fear and the truth in Zathar's words. Mira seized the moment. He's right. Zathar has shown us nothing but kindness. He's shared his knowledge, and he's invested in our community. We have much to learn from each other. Jarek scoffed, crossing his arms. "You're blinded by compassion, Mira. This is not just about one person. It's about our safety. We can't afford to be naive." The tension escalated as some in the crowd began to chant against Zathar, emboldened by Jarek's rhetoric. "Out! Out!" they cried, their voices rising in unison, drowning out the whispers of those who still believed in Zathar's intentions. Feeling overwhelmed, Zathar stepped back, the cacophony swirling around him. Panic threatened to take hold as memories of his destroyed home flooded his mind. Would he be cast out again? He looked to Mira, searching for guidance. She stepped beside him, defiant. "If you choose to turn him away, you turn away an opportunity for growth," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "We must not let fear guide our actions." The crowd hesitated, torn between loyalty to Jarek and their own experiences with Zathar. Zathar held his breath, the weight of their decision pressing down on him. Would they choose fear or the chance to build something beautiful together? Finally, a voice from the back broke through, the little girl with braids, who had been so eager to learn about Zathar's home. "He's our friend. He's helped us already." Her innocence shone like a beacon, lighting the way for others to reconsider their stance. Slowly, the tide began to shift as murmurs of support rippled through the crowd. Zathar felt a flicker of hope rekindle within him, but Jarek's fierce expression remained. He would not back down easily. "This isn't over," Jarek spat, storming off, a few followers trailing behind him. As the crowd began to disperse, Zathar felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had survived this confrontation, but the battle for acceptance was far from over. He turned to Mira, who looked back at him with unwavering determination. "We'll face this together," she assured him. "We'll show them who you really are." Zathar nodded, the bond between them solidifying in that moment, a shared resolve to bridge the divide, no matter the cost. The days that followed were filled with uncertainty, a delicate balance of hope and trepidation. Zathar and Mira dedicated themselves to the garden project, pouring their energy into nurturing the land. Each day, they sowed seeds, laughed with the children, and forged a community that was slowly learning to accept Zathar's presence. But the shadow of Jarek's faction loomed large, a reminder of the fragility of their newfound harmony. One evening, as dusk settled over the colony, a distant rumble broke the tranquility. Zathar stood beside Mira, gazing at the horizon, where dark clouds gathered ominously. "Storm?" he asked, sensing the shift in the air. "Could be," Mira replied, squinting at the sky. "We've had some unpredictable weather lately. We should prepare the garden, just in case." As they hurried to secure the area, the winds picked up, howling through the trees. The children scampered around them, giggling as they helped, but Zathar felt a tightening in his chest. He had learned from the storms on his home planet, and he knew the destructive power they could wield. The thought of losing the garden, their shared effort, made him anxious. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed, followed by a blinding flash of light. Zathar's instincts kicked in. "Get down," he shouted, shoving the nearest child to the ground as a bolt of lightning struck nearby, sending debris flying. The air was charged with energy, and the sky erupted in a tempest. The storm raged, fierce and unrelenting. Zathar and Mira huddled with the children under a sturdy structure, shielding them from the worst of the elements. As the wind howled, he could see the fear in their eyes, the panic reflected in the chaotic dance of the storm. "Mira," Zathar shouted over the din, "we need to secure the garden. The crops could be ruined." "Wait, we need to keep everyone safe first," she urged, but he could see the resolve in her eyes wavering. The garden had become a symbol of hope for them all. "Trust me," Zathar implored, his voice cutting through the noise. "I can help protect it. I know how to fortify our crops against storms." With a determined nod, Mira called for the children to follow her, leading them to a safer location. Zathar charged into the swirling winds, using every ounce of his strength to rally the remaining colonists who had ventured outside. "We need to reinforce the garden. Grab whatever you can," he shouted, his voice ringing with authority. The chaos of the storm matched the urgency of their efforts. Zathar and the colonists worked frantically to secure the plants, using whatever materials they could find. Boards, tarps, even stones, fashioning makeshift barriers against the furious winds. It was a team effort, a moment where differences blurred as they all fought for the same cause. In the midst of the storm, Zathar's confidence grew. He called out instructions, guiding the colonists with clarity and purpose. With each passing moment, they seemed to trust him more, the fear of the alien in their midst slowly transforming into admiration. He felt the shift, the beginning of a bridge between them built on shared labor and sacrifice. But then, just as they finished securing the last of the garden, a monstrous gust of wind sent debris hurtling toward them. Zathar leaped into action, positioning himself as a shield. The impact knocked him to the ground, and he grunted in pain as sharp fragments grazed his scales. "Zathar!" Mira screamed, rushing to his side as the wind howled around them. He pushed himself up, shaking off the disorientation, adrenaline surging through him. "I'm fine," he insisted, though he could feel a deep ache in his side. "We need tow." But before he could finish, a deafening crash echoed through the air. Zathar looked up just in time to see a massive tree toppling toward them. "Run," he shouted, grabbing Mira and pulling her out of the way as it crashed down, barely missing them. As the storm began to lose its ferocity, Zathar and Mira caught their breath, panting heavily. The garden, against all odds, had held up remarkably well. The colonists gathered around, their eyes wide with a mix of shock and admiration. "You saved us," one of the older colonists exclaimed, clapping Zathar on the back. "You really are one of us." Jarek stood off to the side, his expression conflicted. For the first time, Zathar saw a hint of respect in the man's eyes. "Maybe there's more to you than I thought," he admitted reluctantly. Zathar felt a swell of pride. Perhaps this storm, both literal and metaphorical, had forged a new understanding among them. As the last remnants of the tempest faded, Zathar realized that in that moment he had begun to earn their trust. And in turn, he found a sense of belonging he had long thought lost. In the aftermath of the storm, the colony was left to assess the damage. While some structures had sustained minor damage, the garden emerged surprisingly intact, a testament to their collective efforts. As the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the fresh, rain-soaked earth, Zathar felt a renewed sense of purpose. The storm had tested them, but it had also drawn them closer together. The days that followed were filled with recovery and reflection. Jarek, no longer an adversary but a cautious ally, began collaborating with Zathar and Mira. Together, they surveyed the garden, discussing ways to enhance its resilience against future storms. "You did well out there," Jarek admitted one morning as they worked side by side, planting new seeds alongside the remnants of their earlier efforts. "You showed courage. Maybe I misjudged you." Zathar nodded, appreciating the compliment. "We all showed courage. It was not just me." It was all of us. Together, we protected something important. As the weeks passed, Zathar's role in the colony solidified. He shared his knowledge of APEX agriculture techniques, introducing them to new planting methods and bioluminescent plants that could thrive in their environment. The children flourished under his guidance, their laughter echoing through the fields as they learned to nurture life from the soil. One evening, as Zathar and Mira sat together in the garden, watching the sun dip below the horizon, she turned to him, her expression thoughtful. "You've changed things here, Zathar. The garden is flourishing, but so is our sense of community. You've given us a new perspective." "Thank you, Mira," Zathar replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. "But it is you and the others who have accepted me. I could not have done this alone." Just then, a group of children ran up to them, their faces beaming with excitement. "Zathar, we found something," one shouted, holding out a small glowing orb in her hand. Zathar's eyes widened as he recognized it. "A bioluminescent seed. Where did you find this?" "By the river. Can we plant it?" "Please." The children's enthusiasm was infectious. "Absolutely," Zathar responded, his excitement matching theirs. "This can be the centerpiece of our garden. It will bring beauty and light, just like on my planet." As they set to work planting the glowing seed, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. The garden transformed into a vibrant patchwork of colors and textures, each plant telling a story of unity and resilience. For Zathar, it was more than just a garden. It symbolized a new home, a sanctuary where hope could thrive. However, as they tended to the garden, whispers of concern began to circulate. A few of Jarek's followers remained skeptical, fearing that Zathar's presence might attract unwanted attention from outside forces. Rumors of raiders and interstellar threats began to circulate, causing unease among the colonists. One evening, as Zathar was wrapping up a long day in the garden, Mira approached him, her brow furrowed. "We need to talk," she said, glancing around to ensure they were alone. "There are murmurs of fear among the colonists. They're worried about you drawing attention." Zathar felt a chill run down his spine. "What can we do?" he asked, his heart sinking. "I never intended to put anyone in danger." "I know," Mira replied, her voice softening. "But we need to show them that you're an asset, not a liability. We need to demonstrate our unity to quell their fears." Determined, Zathar nodded. "Let's organize a gathering, a celebration. Show them what we've built together. If they see our community thriving, they might understand the strength we have in each other." Mira's face brightened. "That's a great idea. We can invite everyone, celebrate the harvest, and showcase our new garden. It'll be a chance to bring everyone together." With their plan in motion, Zathar felt a renewed sense of hope. The idea of a celebration offered not just an opportunity to showcase their hard work, but also a chance to solidify the bonds that had been forming. As they began preparations, the garden blossomed with promise, each plant a symbol of resilience and unity. On the day of the celebration, the colony buzzed with excitement. Laughter and music filled the air as the colonists gathered, sharing food and stories. Zathar stood at the center of the garden, surrounded by children and adults alike, his heart swelling with gratitude. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the gathering, Zathar took a deep breath, ready to share his story with the colony. He hoped that this celebration would sow the seeds of trust and understanding among them, bridging the gaps that fear had created. It was time to show them that together, they could cultivate not just a garden, but a lasting community. The celebration commenced as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Lanterns hung from branches, and the air was filled with the aromas of delicious food. Laughter and chatter echoed through the garden, creating a tapestry of sound that enveloped Zathar and the colonists in a warm embrace. Zathar stood before the gathered crowd, a mix of excitement and nervousness swirling within him. He had spent countless hours preparing for this moment, and now it was time to share not just his story, but the story of their newfound community. Mira stood beside him, her encouraging smile reassuring him. "You've got this," she whispered. Taking a deep breath, Zathar stepped forward, raising his voice to capture the attention of the crowd. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his tone steady. "This garden symbolizes not just the fruits of our labor, but the strength we've built together." He glanced around at the familiar faces, some filled with curiosity, others still touched by doubt. "I came to you as a stranger, alone and afraid. But with your kindness and acceptance, I have found a home among you. The APX valued unity, and together we can forge a future that honors both our cultures." A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd, and Zathar felt a surge of confidence. "Tonight, we celebrate not just our harvest, but the bonds we've created. Let this garden be a testament to our resilience and hope, a reminder that together we can face any storm that comes our way." As he finished, a cheer erupted, breaking the tension that had lingered in the air. The colonists began to share food, their laughter rising with the evening breeze. Children dashed about, playing games that blended APX traditions with human ones, creating a lively, harmonious atmosphere. Jarek approached Zathar, a sincere look on his face. "I underestimated you, Zathar," he admitted, extending a hand. "You've brought something special to our community. I see it now." Zathar took his hand, feeling the weight of acceptance shift. "Thank you, Jarek. We are all learning together," Zathar replied, a smile breaking across his face. As the evening wore on, the glow of bioluminescent plants illuminated the garden, creating an enchanting atmosphere. Zathar watched as Mira engaged with the children, teaching them how to cultivate the glowing plants that he had introduced. Their laughter rang out like music, filling him with joy. Later, a circle formed as the colonists shared stories from their past, tales of struggle and triumph, woven with hope and laughter. Zathar listened intently, understanding that these stories connected them in ways he had never anticipated. He realized that everyone had faced their own storms, and together they had emerged stronger. Finally, it was time for Zathar to share his own story. "On my home planet," he began, "we faced a great storm, a storm that took everything from me. But in this garden, I see the potential for something beautiful, a future where we thrive together." As he spoke, Zathar's heart soared. The fears that had once gripped him began to dissipate, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. "Let us continue to nurture this community, to learn from one another, and to grow together," he finished, his voice full of emotion. The crowd erupted in applause, a unified expression of support that resonated deeply within him. Zathar felt tears prick at his eyes, overwhelmed by the acceptance he had found. As the night unfolded, Zathar and Mira led the children in planting the last of the glowing seeds, a symbol of their shared commitment to the future. The garden shimmered with potential, reflecting the light of a new dawn. In that moment, Zathar understood that home was not merely a place, but a connection, woven through shared experiences, laughter, and love. The storm had brought them together, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the stars sparkled above them, Zathar felt a sense of peace settle within. He was no longer left alone in the cosmos. He was part of something greater. With hope blooming in their hearts, Zathar and the colony stood united, ready to embrace the future together. An interstellar family forged in resilience, compassion, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.